What's up everybody? Brody here from Sew Yeah Quilting. Today in this video I'm going to teach you how to make this insulated casserole carrier. This casserole carrier is super easy to make. It's got two little loops like this that opens up for your pans. Let's get started. Let's dive on into the cutting instructions. So right here I have a few pieces of fabric and some Insul-Bright. Your Insul-Bright is going to be 22 inches square along with these two pieces of fabric. I have 4 pieces of fabric that are 3 inches by 7 inches. And I have 2 pieces of fabric here for the handle that are 22 inches by 3 inches. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the loops and the handle of our carrier. So I'm gonna take these 2 pieces of fabric, I'm gonna put them right sides together, and I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam down the 2 long sides and 1 short side. Then what I'm gonna do is, after I sew it together, I'm going to flip it inside out. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to the machine and do that now. Okay, so I've got my handle sewn. I'm gonna do the same thing with our 2 little hooks. So this is this part of the project that slides through the handle. So I'm going to do the same thing, turn these right sides together and sew 3 edges just like I did the handle. All right, finished my second one. Now we're going on to our last piece here before we get to the body of our casserole carrier. Now that I have these ready to turn, what I'm gonna do is just turn them inside out. Take it over to the top camera so you can see. Pull it through like this. You could use a turning tool if you want. These are really small, so it doesn't really need one. So I've got the first one, I'm gonna do that to the rest of them now. So now that I have these turned, I'm just gonna go ahead and press them flat. Now before you go over in the comments and say, hey, you can't iron on top of your cutting mat, I've got Insul-Bright under here, don't worry. And here you can actually iron on top of martelli mats, but let's keep going. So I've got these ironed. Now that we have, this is the hardest part of the whole thing, is putting these together and turning them. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna set these aside and we're going to take our square of Insul-Bright and our 2 squares of fabric. And what we're going to do is, I'm gonna move this one out of the way. We're going to take our Insul-Bright, lay it down first, like you see here, and lay our first piece of fabric right side up on top. We wanna lay it down where it's square on top. Now that I have my Insul-Bright and my fabric together, what you're gonna do is take what will be one of your loops and you're going to put it with the same fabric that you have on top together like this. And you want it to be 1.5 inches away from the corner. So I'm just gonna use my mat here. Now I'm going to get some wonder clips and I'm going to clip it together. Just like this. Now this part's important. You don't want to, what most you'll want to do is take this and turn it like this to sew the other side. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you have the same side up on both sides. So you're actually just going to go like this, and you're also going to go 1.5 inches away from the edge. So this is 1.5 inches, just like that. I'm going to take 2 more wonder clips, and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite corner. Now you can see that there's a little bit of Insul-Bright hanging out. It's not going to make a difference. Just line it up the best you can. Now that I have this ready to sew, just like this, I'm going to take my last piece of fabric and I'm going to put it right side down, right on top, and line it up. You want to make sure, let me see if you can see this in the top cam. You want to make sure that these are kind of just pressed down. So kind of like, just like this. So they stay out of your way while you're sewing. You don't need to iron them or anything, just push them down with your hands, just like this. Now, I like to grab just a few wonder clips to be able to hold things in place. You don't need to go crazy with it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around, leaving a hole to be able to flip it inside out. Oops, that's the clip. So I'm going to finish clipping this, I'm going to take it over to the machine and get that seam sewn. We'll be right back. Okay, so I'm getting to the corner where I have my loop. What I want to do is just make sure that my loop's still in place. Put my top piece of fabric over and just go real slow and right over the top of it. Okay, so I'm getting to the end of my seam here. I want to make sure, again, to leave those few inches to be able to get your hand through. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the threads and open it up here. One thing I want to point out, and I'll see if I can show you under this top camera, is as you're sewing, the top fabric's going to grow a little bit. So it's okay if you have something like this sticking out, because once you flip it inside out, you're not going to be able to tell. It's not going to make a difference. What you can do is take a little pair of scissors and trim up with just a tiny bit, anything that's excess, and then we're going to flip it inside out. All right, so now we're going to go to the flipping part of our project here. So one thing to make sure of, we have our Insulbright, we have our first fabric, and we have our second fabric. You want to make sure that you're flipping between the fabrics and not between the Insulbright. That will not work. So I'm going to stick my hand in here. I like to just grab the first corner, try to push it inside out. Okay, now that we have this flipped, I'm going to just iron it flat, and then we're going to close our hole that we have through our turn hole, and we're going to add the strap, and then we're going to be done. Okay, so I've got everything ironed. Now I'm going to turn this in about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a tiny bit more, to close our turn hole. Then we're going to take it over to the sewing machine and sew a finished seam around 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. All right, now that we've got this pinned closed, what we're gonna do is just bring it back over to the sewing machine, and we're gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. So that's gonna cover or close our hole as well as put that decorative seam on it. Now that we've sewn our decorative edge on here, as well as closed the hole, what we're going to do is add our strap. This is the important part. We want to make sure when we lay our strap down, first of all, that it's going this direction and not this direction, okay? And that we have each one of our fabrics is matching, so that our loop fabric's matching this side up, and that our strap fabric is the same fabric on both sides. Now, and you're gonna get a ruler and measure 2 inches from the corner of our project, so right here. I'm gonna set this here, right in the center of it, and we're just gonna sew down a top seam right on top. So you wanna do just like a scant quarter and just go back and forth a couple of times to make sure it's really gonna hold. So I've done one little loop here, or one little seam. I'm gonna do the same thing one more time. Back it up. Just like that. Now, I'm going to come right back over here, and one thing you want to make sure, so this side as well is going to be 2 inches away from the corner. Now, obviously, you can't just lay it flat and attach it because it's not long enough. You want it to have a little bit of a curl, a little bit of a pull when you sew it. So, and this is my raw edge that I flipped, so I'm just going to turn this under, and I'm going to put it 2 inches from my corner. So I'm just going to lay this here and set it down just like that. Now I'm just gonna do this the easy way and hold it with my thumbs. I'm not gonna pin it or anything, and take it right over to the machine and sew it. Just like that, our insulated casserole carrier is finished. Now let me just show you how to use this. You're gonna take your pan, set it inside, grab your loop, you're gonna pull the handle through, same thing on the other side, and you're ready to go to the party. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, this is a really easy project to make. It only takes a few minutes. If you've liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. My name's Brody, teaching you how to sew like a pro. We'll see you next week here at Sew Yeah Quilting.